Hello. What I have for you today is another column that I'm doing on my YouTube channel with advice on Adventure Pass with Pathfinder. I've done a couple of the APs as GM. Curse of the Crimson Throne, but that was 3.5. And Jade Regent is my newest one, but I have messed around with Legacy of Fire, of course, another 3.5, and I went pretty far with those. I finished Curse completely. Legacy of Fire, I got up to the end of Book 4. Jade Regent, fully intending to complete that one. I was lucky enough to have a online group. It came together in the most astounding ways, and I can't believe the amount of loyalty, the amount of respect, and just the overwhelming amount of success that we've had so far. It's been about almost a year, still going strong, and looks about almost a year again to finish up the halfway mark where we're at, and then get all the way to Book 6. And with the multitude of epilogues I'll probably feature after that. I also did Skull and Shackles. I got up to Book 3, so these other ones like Legacy Fire and Skull and Shackles, those have ended abruptly. I had a local group, very shitty local group. I had one or two good players, but the rest just thought it was about showing up, and when they were here, they were either on their computer, or just the conversations were just everywhere, and you couldn't get them to focus on the game. Just a lot of lack of involvement. And I have run a couple of modules as well, so really this video is going to be about Jade Regent. That's probably the most knowledgeable one I have, and it's most current and up to date and fresh in my mind. Just to not spoil it for the players in my group, I'll just kind of go through each book, one per video, as I get to complete those, and try not to spoil too many things that may hint towards the other books as I get along here. So starting off with Book 1 of Jade Regent. Start off in Sandpoint in Varcia, and really you can just embrace the Varcian heritage, the cultures, such as the Skarnarzi, the gypsy type of people, if you will, and then the mixture of kind of different, almost European sort of mixes there. You can even get a little advanced or unique, exotic with a lot of the other races that could, migrate from all over. And Sandpoint's a pretty good place to start in. It's already been featured at least once before in another AP with Rise of the Rune Lords, so you could, if you want to start with that first and then kind of bridge it to Jade Regent, maybe with a generation cast of characters where the next gen goes through like the next AP, or you can take the overwhelming and tremendous task of trying to combine the two of them. I guess you'd get up to epic level there, unless you change the experience. But that's just, I don't even want to think about that. But with Book 1, as GM, you have so many opportunities to do so many things. What am I talking about? The subsystems. Yes, there's lots of pros and cons, and you can look on the message boards and find all sorts of horrible things to kind of keep you away from there, but I just recently received the Ultimate Campaign book, and in there it beautifully illustrates, collaborates, and just kind of works out a lot better. There's some updated material in there that kind of fleshes out everything into a more broader range of things that were kind of left unanswered before. What they didn't put in there, of course, was the Caravan rules and such. So just start off with the subsystems. First off, man, there is a lot of bad reviews for the Caravan combat. And me and one other like player, we had a discussion about that, and we thought, let's just try it out and see. Let's make up our mind for ourselves. Fully embrace the package of the Caravan rule subsystem, and luckily, going off of this amazing group that I have, one of our newest players, new to the game and such, he decided to take on the taskmaster or task of the caravan, which I would refer to him as the caravaneer, since he fully embraced it, digested it, studied it, and just elaborately defined it for everyone in the group, because it is more of a player resource where you have to manage your inventory, manage the jobs that people get for the caravan jobs, your consumption with your food, statistics with caravan combat, which is uniquely different from just regular combat with your player characters. In itself is just, it's overwhelming to take on, but we wanted to see if it could also reward you at the same time. And as we tried that subsystem out, we quickly sort of found out that it kind of limits the group, where one person kind of, is taking control of the caravan, rolling for the combat part of it, while just the kind of group waits for the things to resolve. And really, not everyone's going to want to embrace it, study it. People just kind of want to hear what the other person says, who has the most knowledge and can give the best insight, and make the decisions needed to pick feats and buy supplies and different caravan wagons and such. So we found out that it's a little limiting in its exposure to the other players during the combat. Also, it seems like every encounter the caravan faces with the caravan monster, or adversary, if you will, they do a significant amount of damage, to where your caravan is, just about every scenario encounter that it faces is going to have to route to flee to hope to evade them, just because it's taken so much damage. Or you're probably going to likely have the caravan get destroyed a few times, to where your PCs, NPCs have to regroup at some sort of forest line in the aftermath of the devastation and heavy loss that they took, kind of regroup, rekindle, their relationships, their supplies, take stock and gather what they can, and get to the nearest civilized settlement, and the grueling task of building that caravan troop back up again. So we ran into that scenario where the caravan was just taking enormous amounts of damage, just consistently, and it was disheartening, and just seemed way overpowered on the side of the opposition for those that were against the caravan trying to take it out. So what we introduced into that, we took the caravan rules, all the time that we spent into it, why abolish all of it and kind of waste that person's time with studying it and having that knowledge and that task and that role, at vital role to the rest of the group. So let that person still shine, like the princess that he is. Just kidding, Joey. And what we did instead, we had the caravan have its fight using the same stats with the caravan monster stats. They would have their own fight. They would still fight the same round as the PCs would. But what you can do, you can give a sort of a time crunch scenario where the PCs have to fight off their combatants, which are the same ones as the caravan ones. You just take the bestiary stats and make a reflection or a mirror of those, and they can fight that caravan's monster, but in the bestiary fashion, while the caravan fights their same type of monster, but with the caravan stats. So you have both those combats going on at the same time. Of course, the caravan's adversary in a caravan would always resolve on the very first round of each round. And then the player characters would have to defeat their adversaries first that were non-caravan monsters. Defeat them, do it fast enough, brings that whole teamwork, kind of blossoms the tactics, where they can refine them, kind of makes the cohesion amongst the players that much more needed, gives them the practice to, you know, work better for tougher encounters later on against the big bad evil guys at each book. So we did that. Also, we introduced the option to where you can use the NPCs, the non-player characters such as Amiko, Shaylilu, Koya, Spivey, Ulf, all those different people. One unique part of that, on the Paizo message boards, there is a ton of questions asking, did you guys level up Amiko to level 20 or 17 or 16 so that we can have that last battle actually have a meaningful resolve, end scene? Maybe throw those in. And a lot of people are just asking for the statted up versions. So, given this ability to let your players play the NPCs, PC NPC, if you will, player character, non-player character, as silly as that sounds, give them control, even take another foot forward, let them build the class for Sandru, Amiko, whatever. Maybe, hopefully, they would stay within that theme of, you know, Amiko being a bard, something, you know, Sandru still being a rogue, something, maybe a splash of another class level or two, but let them pick what they want and hopefully stay true to that character, knowing the personality, the background, and such, the goals. That way, they're more interested in playing it. It'll be more of a rewarding experience. They get to know that NPC rather than you just shoving it down their mouth every time, to where you just kind of they get them sick, especially if you got certain people that are just very touchy on stories and stuff, which there is no complaints within my group. All-star cast, thank you. So that way, when you get to the end or whatever, they're all set to go. You saved yourself all that work. You decide to kind of have that emphasis on NPCs having some sort of task in that battle at hand, or in the middle somewhere, or some sort of story where they have to come out and make some rolls, or they're needed for something. So you can have them, you know, just fight alongside the caravan, and in the cutscenes in the background, the player characters are actually fighting, you know, whatever else, or they've left the caravan to go scout or whatever. So I highly recommend that. It was a lot of the decisions I made were just sort of last minute, more like impromptu sort of creations, which amazingly benefited the campaign, saved it from never even becoming dull at any point. So that is one significantly huge amount of advice that I can give. Hopefully that makes sense to you, what I've explained there. If not, feel free to let me know, and I can go over that in more detail. As far as the other subsystems, with Ultimate Campaign, you can introduce so many different things. You can introduce the fame aspect of like the Pathfinder society. Kind of don't do the society, but you can introduce that fame part where, you know, they're taking on some things like what I did with, it was a Sandpoint Devil. I kind of pitted that at them a little bit later on in the books, but before they left Varsia. So you can have different things that you want to kind of throw at them and kind of build that fame up, because, you know, they're traveling around in a caravan. There's going to be some sort of notoriety or some sort of herald and sort of news that follows with them, perhaps, on how large of life the characters, you know, portray themselves with the rest of the world, or your world if you're going to run it. You can use the honor part of it. There's an honor subsystem. It's featured more so in the Ultimate Campaign. You can have that strictly only in T&Zia, the other side of the world, the other continent, not Avestan. You can have that kind of just to go along that Oriental samurai sort of a thing. The other subsystems, if you're a big fan of Kingmaker, you can throw a little bit of that in there. They even do talk about some things in Book 6 where, you know, the opportunity for mass combat rules, you can throw those in there. You know, there's no secret that, you know, you're there to win back, you know, the throne. There's an heir. So you're going to be looking for other people and such. So if you wanted to bring more of an aspect of, you know, the Last of the Samurai kind of a theme there, where there's fighting forces and such, you're taking over the capital or whatever, some village or city or whatever. I shouldn't say village, that's way too small for a grand and very broad scenario there, but city, whatever, you can introduce those things as well. They even talk about things in the epilogue featuring other countries that may wage war and such, so you have that as well. You can try to do kingdom building, but really most of it's already kind of built in there, so I would probably stay away from that aspect. You don't want to give them subsystem addiction, if you want to call it that. That's the only thing I can think of now as far as this subsystem. But of course, the one I forgot to mention here is the relationships. Definitely embrace that. You got all those NPCs. If you have a hard time role-playing those, you can use that relationship part of it. Yeah, of course, you're kind of, in a way, sort of verbally making out with the other player, maybe with the how strong of the innuendos and themes and such that you bring on upon them, but really, in a sense, it brings out the role-playing aspects, especially if you're kind of frightened by that, or lack sort of the on-demand sort of verbalized reactions. That's what one of my players best said, is what GMing is just reactionary. You're always reacting to what either is being said, done, rolled, so you're reacting to all of it. And then, you know, it's a big part of the story aspect of it. You're reacting through these relationships. And a lot of complaints are that the PCs are just babysitting the NPCs. That's why you throw the NPCs out there, let them stat them up, use them, enjoy the heck out of them, and then you throw the relationship aspects in there with the scores and things that they can work towards that not really forces them, but just kind of embraces, brings some enthusiasm, and just kind of they'll just kind of run with it. It just gives more options. You're not forcing it down their throat. It's just better overall, just in my experiences alone. If you forget to do certain things, that is always there as a framework that you can always build upon. Back to Jade Regent, away from the subsystems now. So I think I covered that pretty much, maybe in too much detail in fashion. But right away you can start off with the brine stump marsh. You can get right into like the Kingmaker aspect if you want, because there's so many people hooked on Kingmaker. They just want to see those revitalized and just renewed in different aspects of the other APs. So you can do that there as well with just the exploration, where you have to kind of map or chart out this area. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So you can just bring this sandboxy sort of feel to them, where it feels like they're driving it, and gives them the option to go left or right, and sort of the time and time again, the railroad fashion that you always hear. You can kind of move away from that and really still follow the plot all along the way and not really losing track of it. Especially since they're low level and they're not going to really decide to go across the sea, right? Skull and Shackles, right? So there's somewhat of a mini dungeon sort of a thing featured in there too. So really you have a lot of different aspects already right from the start. So really I don't want to say too much more, but probably the one thing I should at least talk about is the, sorry for all the ums, I'm just saying it like crazy. You'll notice that in all my videos. I'll just start. Did it again. Did it again. Jade Regent. What else? There was something I was about to say. Oh yes, Brinewall Castle. There is something on the Paizo boards you can check out called the customizable treasures, vault treasures, Brinewall vault treasures, something like that. In the book, it gives the GM the option to create, stat out, pick different items of a certain gold piece limit that you can reward your player characters upon accessing this vault, when they immediately become the Amaterasu Scions and gain those visions and that awareness of a impending sort of timeline to where all haste must be given to complete sort of this restoring of a lost princess. You become Scions, where you're entrusted with the last of the Amaterasu line, and you're rewarded with these Amaterasu treasures that were hidden from time, from those who shall not be mentioned, sort of a thing. Protected treasures that were safeguarded and that were not thankfully looted. So you can pick what things you want to give them. Really, they're so low in level, you don't know where they're going to branch off, what they're going to change. Maybe they decide to retrain some things from, such as what was mentioned in the Ultimate Campaign. So, what you can do, if you look up that thread on the Paizo boards for the custom Brinewall Vault treasures, you can make tomes. Books that impart knowledge, let's say at 3rd level, 6th level, 9th level, 12th level, that give the player character certain abilities. Maybe you can frame it to where it's kind of like sorceress abilities, where you get certain powers, certain abilities, certain swift action features. I posted some stuff on there. Xenomorph 27 is my whatever guy on there, so you can check my stuff out that I posted on there. There was a couple other ones. There's 2 or 3 threads on that that were just kind of regurgitated, so you can check those out, go through the list, and see what sort of books you can make them Tian themed, Viking themed. Well, no, you can't do Viking themed because that doesn't make any sense. I would say you have to make it Tian themed. You can create like a little story behind it. When they read these, it imparts them knowledge and such. One thing I should also mention, you're going to be seeing a lot of Eastern weapons and armors that are going to be popping up in these books. And because they're from Varsia, they're likely not going to be a ninja, likely a samurai maybe, sorry, I just discriminated a ninja. Okay, they may be a ninja. So, monk, whatever. Sorry. But in the off chance, the likelihood, they'll just be the more common classes, or uncommon but not the exotic ones that are freshly new. And you're kind of stuck with getting these different weapons and not having the proficiency to use them. And even if you do you want to suffer the negatives with it? So, what I introduce, part of those visions, if you want, that are granted to you from the Amaterasu seal, Warden box, whatever. Since you're going through that theme or that sequence where you're seeing other people from before the Amaterasu line, experiencing the family line through like the history, that goes by really fast. Why don't you get some imparted knowledge from that? Is it just going to be one of those slideshow things? I mean, why not retain something from that? Perhaps in some of those glimpses, former memory, not yours, but a vague notion comes to you, the hand twitches, all of a sudden, unbeknownst to you, you can hold a katana, and before you know it, you're revitalizing some of that skill. Maybe the spirit of the Amaterasu brings about changes to them in a metaphysical way, supernatural way, to where you can impart to them the option to use a free exotic weapon or proficiency feat, to where you can give them that option. They can elect to select that when they want in the subsequent Jade Regent books that follow. When they see something that they really want, bam, you got the free feat right there where they can use that. And yes, they remember from those sequence of events or that book that they read of a tome or whatever that grants them that. So right there you kind of save yourself some of the headache, some of the vile stares from your darkly brooding players who are very angry with you because you're giving them all these treasures and you're denying them the usage of it, or they have to pay in a way through their feats, selections, and such to use these. So that is one other resounding boon that you can choose to kind of format into your game. So all of my stuff has been on Map Tools. I have a virtual tabletop. I have a really good crew. They're really good at all that macro stuff, the calculations and such. So I'm willing to share any of the tokens that I made. So if you happen to be doing a virtual thing, of course I won't share the PDFs that I have and books and whatever, but if you want, I created all the macros myself, so I'm willing to share those. if you want to partake on that, it would save you hours and hours and hours of time. I'm guessing I've spent, I don't know, 30 hours maybe. Not at once, but over that year time or whatever. I'm just guessing on the hours, but I remember every week so far I've been spending a few hours building up the tokens for those. It's well worth it. Click of a button, you got your instant rolls right there. You can put your instant information. Yeah, you can still have your book right in front of you, but all that material's there. There's not that much typing involved at all, and you can just copy and paste some of those that you use into other creatures with their spells and such. So feel free to send me some comments or whatever on anything you have that you're curious about with Jade Regent. I hope this has inspired some sort of decision process on yours to elect to try out Jade Regent. If you want to know some of the more spoilers or features or whatever that I'm not quite willing to share on the video here, but I will get to those as I complete those books, so expect to see book 2 and book 3 video reviews for those shortly. So that's all I got. Thank you. See ya.